Okay, let's think about something for a second. Imagine you're in a really, really tough spot, like truly stuck, no obvious way out.
Right, like that thought experiment, the third world jail cell one.
Exactly. Who is the one person you immediately think of calling? That person you know could somehow figure it out.
Hmm. And what is it about them?
Yeah, what qualities do they have?
Hmm.
That refusal to just accept no, that way they just attack problems.
That's pretty much what we're digging into today. High agency. It's hard to define sometimes, but you definitely know it when you see it.
Totally. It's like the difference between seeing something annoying like suitcases without wheels for
Yeah,
decades
everyone just dragging them.
and then deciding, "No, we're putting a man on the moon." One is just accepting things, the other is, well, bending reality a bit.
Bending reality, I like that.
Mm.
It's actively shaping things.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. Let's try to really get our heads around what high agency is, how to spot it, and maybe most importantly, how you listening can, build more of it yourself. We've got some great stuff to go through.
Yeah, fundamentally, it's about changing your stance towards life, isn't it?
So,
Well, moving away from that feeling that life just happens to you.
like you're just reacting all the time.
Exactly. Towards actively making things happen. Seeing the future as uh, something malleable, something you can influence.
And it's not just wishful thinking, right? The material we looked at had this great quote from Eric Weinstein.
Oh, yeah, the one about the internal dialogue.
That's one. High agency is that little voice that starts up the second someone says, that's impossible.
It's not a full stop for them. It's a, okay, but how could it work? It's the start of a puzzle.
Right. And this isn't just some, philosophical idea. It has real consequences.
Absolutely. For individuals, for society. Having more people operating with higher agency generally means we get better at solving problems. Big problems, small problems.
So the sources use this analogy I found helpful. A tricycle.
Right, the three wheels of high agency.
You need clear thinking, obviously, but then there's a bias to action and disagreeability.
Yeah, the bias to action makes sense. Thinking isn't enough. You have to do something, test things out, learn by trying.
But disagreeability, that one might sound a bit off. Why is that so important?
Well, think about it. High agency often means you have to push back against the way things are usually done.
Questioning assumptions.
Exactly. Challenging the status quo. Refusing to just accept limits people put on things. You're not getting out of that imaginary jail cell by politely agreeing it's impossible to escape.
Okay, that makes sense. So as we're talking, you, listening, might be thinking, okay, but do I have this? How much agency do I have?
It's a really natural question. And, the reality, according to the stuff we read, is that low agency can actually be the default setting for a lot of us.
Why is that?
Well, partly evolutionary, maybe. Survival often meant fitting in, not rocking the boat, avoiding big risks.
And maybe our traditional systems, like school.
Yeah, often designed more for compliance, following instructions rather than radical independent thinking or challenging everything.
But here's the good news, right? Agency isn't fixed.
Not at all. The sources really emphasize this. You have agency over your agency. It's not like height or eye color. It's a skill.
Something you can develop.
Exactly. And understanding some core mindsets can really help with that.
Which brings us to this idea of high agency software, like mental
Yeah.
operating systems.
Yeah, 5 key mindsets that seem to pop up again and again in people with high agency. And the first one sounds simple, but it's incredibly powerful.
Which is,
There's no unsolvable problem.
okay, hold on. That seems a bit like magical thinking. Are we saying anything is possible?
Not quite. It's more about the approach. The key question high agency people seem to ask is, does this problem actually defy the laws of physics?
Ah, okay. So if the answer is no,
Then it's not inherently impossible. It might be incredibly difficult, we might not know how yet, but it's theoretically solvable within the rules of the universe.
gotcha. It reframes the challenge.
Totally. Think about Claude Shannon and Ed Thorpe back in the 60s trying to beat roulette.
Everyone knew roulette was unbeatable, pure chance.
Right. But does winning consistently defy physics? No. So they thought, okay, how could we do it? They built the first wearable computer to predict the ball's landing zone. They didn't just accept it can't be done.
They looked for the underlying principles. Like with flying seemed impossible until people figured out the physics.
Exactly. It's about digging deeper than the surface level impossibility. Our sources also bring up David Deutsch's example.
The asteroid.
Yeah. If an asteroid is heading for Earth, and say penguins are the dominant species,
Mm-hmm.
well, their fate is pretty much down to physics.
Right, splat.
But for humans, we have agency. We can choose to detect it, calculate trajectories, build rockets, try to deflect it. Our choices, our actions, can change the outcome.
So human agency introduces this whole other layer of possibility that physics alone doesn't account for.
Precisely. Choosing inaction makes the physics outcome more likely. Choosing action, well, it opens up other possibilities.
Okay, so that's mindset one, no unsolvable problems within physics. What's number two?
Number two is there's no way.
Meaning, there's no single right way.
Exactly. It's rejecting the idea that there's only one correct path or method to achieve something.
Okay, give me an example.
Think about those tennis greats at Wimbledon. Nadal, Djokovic, Federer.
Yeah.
Their pre-match routines,
Yeah.
totally different, right? One super intense, one calm and precise, one almost playful.
But all playing at the absolute highest level.
Right. There wasn't one correct warm-up style. They each found what worked for them.
I like that. And the material mentioned Leonard Cohen and Bob Dylan too, right? With songwriting.
Yeah. Hallelujah took Cohen years, tons of verses, constant refining.
Whereas Dylan supposedly wrote Just Like a Woman really quickly, almost like it
Right.
just flowed out.
Two completely different processes, both leading to iconic songs. It's about finding your way, not just copying someone else's supposed right way.
Okay, that makes sense. Mindset three is interesting. There are no adults.
Yeah, that one sounds a bit strange at first.
What's it getting at? It's not literal, obviously.
No, it's about dismantling this tendency we have to put successful people or people on authority on pedestals. Like there's the separate category of flawless, all-knowing beings.
The grown-ups who have it all figured out.
Exactly. And the truth is, nobody does. The sources give all these examples. Steve Jobs delaying his cancer treatment.
Mozart constantly broke.
Newton being obsessed with alchemy. Napoleon apparently having hemorrhoid issues at Waterloo.
Wow. Okay, Tesla and his pigeon. Nietzsche getting rejected.
Right. Even the greatest figures were complex, flawed human beings. They made mistakes, had weird quirks, faced struggles.
So the point isn't to tear them down, but to realize.
That nobody has a monopoly on answers or perfection. Believing there's this class of perfect adults can actually stop you from acting, make you feel like you need permission or aren't qualified.
Yeah, I can see that. It's disempowering. Okay, so that connects to number four. There's no normal.
Right. This tackles that deep-seated human desire to fit in, to be accepted by conforming.
The normal paradox, they called it.
Yeah, it's this idea that when we try too hard to smooth out our edges and just blend in, we actually become forgettable.
Whereas it's the unique things, the quirks, the slightly weird stuff.
That's what people remember. That's what makes an impact. Think about small things. Paying for a stranger's meal, taking a spontaneous trip, giving genuinely honest feedback, instead of just saying what's expected.
Those things stand out. They might feel slightly outside the norm, but they create real connection.
And the source made a really poignant point about funerals. Nobody stands up and talks about how incredibly normal the person was. They talk about the unique stories, the funny habits, the ways they were different.
It's a powerful point. Striving for some vague idea of normal might actually make you less memorable, less impactful. Embracing your own way, even if it feels odd, is what creates a life people remember.
Which leads us to the fifth and final piece of this software.
There's only now.
This one feels really fundamental. It's about the nature of time, really. The past is gone, just memories. The future isn't here yet, just possibilities.
The only time you can actually do anything is right now.
Exactly. There's this pretty intense story in the material about Kevin Smith's father.
Right, who apparently followed all the rules, did everything he was supposed to do.
But his final moments were full of distress. And that was a huge wake-up call for Kevin Smith.
Like, playing it safe doesn't guarantee a good outcome or a sense of fulfillment.
Yeah. It drove him to pursue his own path, his passions, with this real sense of urgency. Because tomorrow isn't promised. Agency can only be exercised now, waiting for the perfect conditions. Well, you could be waiting forever.
Wow, okay, those 5 mindsets are powerful on their own, but then the material goes into this incredible story, possibly the highest agency human ever.
Yeah, Wilbur Wright, his story is just wow, especially when you look at where he started.
Wow.
Well, around age 18, massive setbacks, bad facial injury from an accident, basically bedridden for years. His mother got terminally ill. His plans for Yale completely derailed.
So things look pretty bleak.
Extremely. And during this really difficult time, he gets weirdly fascinated by birds, watching them, thinking about how they fly.
Which back then people thought showman flight was basically impossible, right? Like science fiction.
Totally. The New York Times famously said it wouldn't happen for 1,000,000 years, not long before they actually did it.
So everyone's saying impossible. What does Wilbur do?
He doesn't accept it. He starts educating himself. This is the late 1800s, remember? No internet.
How did he even learn?
He wrote letters to libraries, to the Smithsonian, asking for everything they had on flight and aerodynamics. He just soaked it all up.
That's amazing resourcefulness. And he broke it down logically.
Yeah, classic high agency thinking. Okay, birds fly.
Uh-huh.
So it doesn't defy physics. Therefore, humans should be able to fly. Therefore, I should be able to figure out how to fly.
That no unsolvable problem mindset again, and then the bias to action kicks in.
Big time. He ropes in his brother Orville, and they start building gliders, tinkering, experimenting.
And they hit walls, right. Loads of problems.
Oh, absolutely. Problems everyone else considered deal breakers. Like they needed specific wind and sand conditions, didn't have them in Ohio.
So did they just give up?
Nope. They contacted the U.S. Weather Bureau, got data from all over the country, analyzed it, and pinpointed Kitty Hawk, North Carolina, 700 miles away.
A place they'd never even been to.
Never left home before, really. But they packed up their stuff and went. That's disagreeing with their limitations. We can't do it here. Wasn't the end of the story.
Incredible. Living rough on the beach, these two brothers trying to fly.
And then controlling the thing in the air. How do you steer? They didn't know. So they watched birds obsessively, how they warped their wings, built their own wind tunnel in their bike shop, tested hundreds of wing designs.
They just kept inventing solutions. What about the engine?
Existing engines were way too heavy, couldn't find one light enough, so they designed and built their own lightweight engine with their mechanic Charlie Taylor.
They just refused to be stopped by any obstacle.
It took 4 years of this. Crashes, failures, people mocking them. Even Wilbur had a moment of doubt, apparently said, not in 1,000 years.
But he didn't quit.
Nope. Back at it the next day. That resilience is key.
And then, December 17th, 1903.
They did it. That first controlled, sustained flight. Only 59 seconds for Wilbur's longest that day, but it changed everything.
Billions of flights every year now. All started there.
It's an almost unbelievable story of overcoming perceived impossibility, which leads to the next logical question.
How do we get more Wilburites? Or at least, how do we tap into more of that in ourselves?
And a big part of that, the sources suggest, is recognizing and escaping these common low-agency traps.
Little traps we fall into.
Yeah, self-imposed barriers, usually related to fuzzy thinking, not taking action, or being too agreeable.
Okay, what's the first trap?
The vague trap. This is where you hide from agency by just never getting specific. Problems stay fuzzy, goals stay undefined.
Like, I should get healthier instead of, I will walk 30 minutes every morning.
Exactly. The escape. Make it concrete. Write it down. Draw a picture. Talk it out loud. Get it out of your head and into the real world. Vague questions lead to vague answers. Vague thinking.
Like asking, what should I do with my career? Versus, what would my dream week look like hour by hour? Or what would my nightmare week look like? Much clearer.
Right. Think of Walt Disney sketching his whole theme park empire. Or Nolan mapping out Inception, making the vision tangible.
Okay, trap number 2.
The midwit trap. This is where you overcomplicate things that should be simple.
Analysis paralysis, getting lost in the weeds.
Pretty much. Losing sight of the basic effective action because you're too busy optimizing the details. The escape. Inversion. Ask yourself, what's the simplest, most direct thing I could do here?
Like, if you want to be a better writer, don't spend weeks researching the perfect keyboard.
Just start writing. Focus on the fundamentals first.
Makes sense. Trap 3.
The attachment trap. Being stuck in your old ways of thinking, your past assumptions, too attached to how you think things are.
So you can't see new possibilities.
Exactly. The escape our sources suggest is powerful. Ask yourself, what would I do if I had 10 times the agency I have now?
Whoa, okay, that forces you outside your usual box.
It really does. Or try the evil twin idea. Imagine someone exactly like you, but with way more agency tackling the problem. What would they do differently? It helps break those fixed patterns.
I like that. Okay, trap 4 is one I think many people know well.
The rumination trap. Getting stuck in those what-if loops. Worrying endlessly, replaying scenarios, but not actually doing anything.
Yeah, paralysis by overthinking. What's the escape?
Reframe it. See that rumination not as just worry, but as the signal that you need to take action, however small. When you're looping, ask, okay, what tiny step can I take right now about this?
Turn the worry into fuel for action.
Exactly. And maybe reframe decisions as experiments, not life or death, but tests. Thinking about moving to New York. Don't agonize for years. Plan a weekend trip, low-stakes experiment.
Good one. And the last trap.
The overwhelm trap. where the goal just seems so huge, so monumental, that you feel paralyzed before you even start.
Like, I want to learn quantum mechanics, but it just seems impossibly vast.
Right. The escape. Break it down to level 1. What is the absolute smallest, simplest first step you can take?
Like finding one good introductory video or article.
Exactly. Don't think about summiting Everest. Just focus on putting on your hiking boots and taking that first step out the door. Find level 1 and do it.
Okay, so we've got the mindsets, the Wilbur Wright inspiration, and the traps to avoid. Now, how do we actually do this? Put it into practice.
This is where the sources get really actionable with something called the turning bullshit into reality exercise.
Catchy name.
Yeah. It's about moving from just thinking about values to actually living them.
Okay, how does it work?
Step 1, write down some core values, maybe ones that feel a bit abstract or esoteric.
Like courage or creativity or connection?
Exactly. Step 2, for each value, list at least 10 specific concrete actions you could take to display that value. Tangible things.
Okay, then.
Step 3, pick one action. Bonus points if it's one that makes you feel a little nervous or uncomfortable.
Leaning into the fear a bit.
Right. Step 4, break that chosen action down into tiny micro steps, as small as possible.
Like really tiny.
Yes. Step 5, do the first micro step immediately, like right now, then the next.
Build momentum.
Step 6, pay attention to how it feels physically, emotionally to actually do the thing. That's the feeling of agency.
Acknowledge it.
And step 7, repeat. Make it a practice.
It feels very different from just making a to-do list, which can feel reactive. This feels more proactive, driven by deeper values.
Exactly. It's creative, not just task-oriented. And if you get stuck doing this, the sources offer a few tools.
Quick tools for getting unstuck.
Yeah, like the high agency flowchart, basically a simple decision process to check if you're falling into a trap.
Yeah.
The Swedish house mafia technique.
Which is?
Get a few smart people in a room, focus intensely on one problem, generate ideas, and start acting on them right away. Super collaborative, action-oriented.
Cool. What else?
The story raiser. This one's great. When faced with a choice, ask, which option makes for a better story?
Oh, I like that. Choose the path that makes your life more interesting.
Exactly. Then there's ask for help, the Derek Sivers method.
How is that different?
The key is how you ask. You prepare meticulously, define the problem clearly, state what you've tried, anticipate the helper's questions. Often, just going through that process helps you solve it yourself before you even send the email.
The preparation forces clarity.
Precisely. And finally, the reminder that a change of perspective is worth 50 IQ points.
Right, like that Rolls-Royce story. Couldn't fit it in the garage.
Until someone suggested just building a bigger garage. Sometimes the solution is simple if you just look at the problem differently.
These are great practical tools.
And there's also mention of a high agency library. More stories and resources about people like James Cameron, Francis Ngannou, others who showed incredible agency. Worth looking up if you want more inspiration.
So really, as we wrap this up, it circles back to that core idea, doesn't it?
There's only a now.
Yeah. Agency isn't something you study forever. It's something you do. It's about the choices you make, the actions you take right now to shape what comes next.
Which leads us nicely to a final thought for you listening, thinking about that story raiser idea.
What kind of story are you writing with your life right now?
And maybe more importantly, what's one small thing, one tiny level 1 action you can take today to make that story just a little bit more interesting, a little more yours?